Good. I was just about to send you it. I'm going to send it to you probably while we're talking. The ratings
Okay.
for Mexico. Yeah,
Oh, God.
we went over
Yeah, I can see what you guys are doing. You're texting him the ratings in Mexico so he can casually bring it up in conversation. What a great job you're doing booking there.
No, well, that's usually I send it to Kevin Kleinrock, and Kleinrock sends it to him. He puts it on on. Where do you put it, on your website, or where do you put it, Dave?
It's in the Observer every week.
Speaking of, I want to start off with this because you spoke about this the other day. Recently I saw you discuss this. I listened to the podcast when you were talking about this, and across the board I want to talk about this. When we talk about, ratings used to be a big conversation, but over the years it really hadn't been because there's no competition on Monday night, right? And you talked about how, like, this past year, like, the ratings, it's been gradually declining on a yearly basis, it seems like. But this past year was like a marked, like, even greater decline than usual.
Right, you even checked.
The last month has been real down. It's been down like 24, 25, 26%. From the same show, the same weekend the previous year. So yeah, it's been
right. Disco looked that up, and it was down. We couldn't believe, Dave, it was down like 25% from the year before.
Bro, I mentioned like 5 years ago. I said that, brother, they're losing 10% of their audience every year, it seems like, ratings-wise. And if you look at the math, that's basically what happens. But this past year was 25%. All right. Yep. What do you think the reasons? So some of the reasons for that are?
Oh, I can tell you that the key reason is too much product and 3 hours. No one can sit through the 3-hour show. And what happened, and it's the same thing that's happened with a lot of sports, is that there's so much product put on television that people just get burned out on the product and can't follow it, so the ratings go down because it's not that different. There's more NBA on TV than ever before because there's more and more money in it. So what you're getting is it's something that's been happening actually since the inception of television with boxing and wrestling in the early 50s, and so many different types of TV shows. So sometimes it was the talk shows, things like that, where a genre gets really, really popular, and then everybody copies it. And in this case, with wrestling, it's like we keep adding hours to it until the audience is just fatigued and they've seen everything. And, you're left with just the hardcores because everybody else is kind of like, when you gotta watch 5 hours a week of television on Monday and Tuesday and then 3 hours of a pay-per-view. And sometimes, actually, I shouldn't say 3. It used to be 3. Now it's closer to 4 or 5, and 7 for WrestleMania. Unless you're like live and die and wrestling is your entire life, you can't keep up, and then you just kind of move on to other things.
And David, it almost happens like in everything. Anything that gets popular in movies, whether it's the Marvel series, now everything's CGI and everything's about bringing out DC comics and Marvel comics and all this other stuff, and it's everybody just want almost even like podcasting. When I got into the game, like the only people that were in it was like you, Cole Cabana. I don't remember really anybody else, and I'm talking about MLW. Now there's like 9,000 podcasts, but you know what I'm saying? Right. It's like when anything gets popular, it doesn't matter what it is. It's movies, sports, just there's an oversaturation where everybody wants to make money and everybody wants to jump in.
Yeah, there's also more to it also. I think that the inability to create, and I think that, like, if you really look at history, like the megastar, sometimes it's a timing thing. It's the right person at the right time, but it's like it's very difficult to just push a button and go, you're a megastar. I mean, it's like sometimes it works, like with The Rock, and because it's the guy and it's the right guy at the right time, or Hulk Hogan or whatever. And other times it's just not at that level. There's just not a guy. Roman Reigns, for better or for worse, he's their pick, but he doesn't. He works really hard. He's a good wrestler, but he doesn't have the charisma. He just doesn't have the charisma of John Cena or The Rock or people that were the top guys in other generations. And that.
What do you think about his T-shirt that says "Iowa's best" or whatever with like a corn with like Seth. Seth. What do you think of that?
That was Seth Rollins has Iowa's T-shirt. Yeah, because he's from Iowa. That was just for the locals, the local market to sell T-shirts.
I would wear that T-shirt anywhere, bro. Come on,
bro. I gotta bring this up. Nobody talks about this. Is it possible? I mean, is it open for discussion that the drastic decrease of ratings can possibly be a result of the fact that they're featuring women in top spots now?
I mean, that's a tough one because the only way to know that would be to do some shows without them and then to see if it makes a difference. I know in the quarter hours, Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch would do much better than the men. They were real strong. But, I mean, you know...
But here's the thing.
I mean, I can't. I mean, like, as an overall thing, having more women's content on the show as compared to years before,
well,
I can't really isolate that one word. I mean, it's absolutely possible. Yeah.
Okay, I want to bring up a point here, though. You just said is that they're featured in more prominent roles. They're doing good ratings, but they're doing good ratings on a week of television that's declining in ratings from the week before. So it's like,
no, I mean,
you can sit there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
As far as like the amount of time that the women have has been at the same time that the ratings have dropped. Is there a correlation? You can, look, it's a hard one to argue. I mean, we can't say for sure, but I mean, if I was looking at it from just a pure statistical thing, I mean, I would have to say that's got to be part of the reason. Right? It doesn't have to be. I shouldn't say it has to be, but I can say that I think if a normal person would look at those numbers and look at changes and look at that change and go, that's part of the reason. It may not be, but I would say, that it's a, realistically, the drop is bigger than previous years. That could be part of the reason.
Okay,
and
so
even should be.
To continue on that point, so this is what I find was happening in the WWE. I've never seen them happen to them before. But the fan base. And like they're taking political positions now. They had to take a political position in Saudi Arabia. They're taking a political position in this women's revolution, right? But it seems this is the first time. And also you hear stories that Fox is like kind of like making demands on Vince. It's the first time that I've actually
they haven't yet, but
not yet. But you hear the rumblings.
That will certainly happen if Fox's ratings aren't what Fox expects. For sure, that'll happen. Yeah.
Which brings my point. For the first time in their history, I've never seen the WWE being pushed around like they are. It's like because like the fans are kind of pushing them around. They're forcing them into booking things they don't really want to book, and they're kind of scared out of getting out of these directions because they're worried about what the social justice mob might say. Do you think that's a possibility? Do you see that happening?
I actually think there's something to that. I mean, the thing is that. Before what happened is for a long time, for the last couple of years, the fans have wanted one thing and they've wanted another, and they've given the fans exactly what they want to give the fans, and I don't say ignored the fans, but they've ignored the fans to a degree, and then it becomes this pushback. And now we have a situation where there's a rival company, and they don't want to be the bad guys, and social media is so prominent. So they don't want to be the bad guy promotion, and these other guys, the AEW becomes the good guys, and it opens the door. So they're trying to be the good guy promotion and do what the fans want and give the fans who they cheer for, which probably, in the case of the people who are on top, are probably not the people Vince would choose on his own.
Oh, not at all.
And so, yeah, that's happened. The fans, I mean, even just the littlest thing like the name Viking Experience, which was a dumb name. But if it was 2 years ago and a whole bunch of people complained, this is a dumb name, Vince would have said, so what? You know what I mean? He would have ignored it. I mean, he switched that name the very next week, and that never would have happened before. So yes, they're listening to the audience more. And
even the women's revolution came a lot from the audience too.
The women's
from
revolution
the social media,
a lot from the audience when the audience was just give divas a chance.
When they were hashtagging "Give us a chance" or whatever the hashtag was, women's revolution.
Right. Well, it came. It came. I think it really came because in NXT, they were presenting women as more serious athletes, and on the main roster, it was the TNA show. It was all about looks and all about flimsy costumes and everything. And so the fans who saw it on that show and saw the better quality of wrestling wanted it on the main roster, and slowly they adapted to it. Whether that's good or bad, I mean, I think it's good. I think it's better for wrestling and all that, but as far as ratings go, there's no proof real big other than I mean again
you can't point to anything the ratings these days that anything's working. That's
no.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I don't think Dave. But
I do have to say, like, as far as like Becky Lynch is probably a legitimate bigger star as a woman that they was homegrown. Forget about Ronda Rousey; she came from another world and was a star that they bought. than any woman that they've ever had. I mean, certainly in the last 15 years.
And so here's the thing with the women's revolution. I think what guys, what people don't like is they still have a lot of women that aren't ready, but they get a chance because they're women and they shouldn't even be on TV. But there is some good women's wrestling. And I also think that women haven't been a detriment in anything else. Why would it be in wrestling? They're getting better parts in movies and stuff like that. And if they're good, they're good, so it's very hard for me to think that's the women's revolution. I just think saturation of the product and not a good product.
Too much, and it's a tired product. I mean, you just watch it. I mean, I just remember like last night's show, and I mean, there's nothing really
stands
wrong.
out.
No.
But there was nothing like when the show was over. It's kind of like, we saw a nice three-way match.
What was the best part of the show? The Sami Zayn's promo, and that was it.
Well, I thought that was really funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not something that's going to draw ratings. That's just like entertaining us.
But that was the best thing I thought I saw. There was a good match. I liked the match between what's this called, Joe and Mysterio and Styles. I liked the seeing. I think is that the first time Joe and Ray ever wrestled?
Not
Joe.
WrestleMania, but they only did a 1-minute match.
No, AJ.
Joe and AJ wrestled a million times.
No, AJ and Ray.
I know that they never wrestled a singles match. I'm not sure. It may have been. Yeah.
Right. It was just kind of cool to see them in the ring together. You know what I'm saying? And Joe has great chemistry with both of them, so that match is good. But nothing that you're like, wow. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing that really stuck out after 3 hours.
Yeah, it's hard when you don't have the larger-than-life stars, because then you don't have the dream matches that you're building to. You kind of had that at WrestleMania with the Rousey match with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. But that one, like, there were so many twists and turns in the booking that went off the rails before they did get it back by the end. But I think even then that there was it felt like it peaked early, and then it kind of came back in the last week, but kind of in the middle it was kind of.
Yeah, that was not a WrestleMania main event.
Well, you didn't have main eventers working in the match is a problem. WrestleMania main events have been guys that been main eventing shows and house shows and stuff for a considerable amount of time. You know what I'm saying? That was kind of like, put together because the fans were kind of behind Becky and they had to throw it out there and put it on top. I mean, that's what I got out. I thought it was a rush.
Also, though, it was the biggest match that they had because,
right.
I mean, Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston, which ended up being the second biggest match, was something that just kind of fell into their arms, at the last minute, because it was originally going to be Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens, which was a cold match. So part of it is like, yes, was this as big as some of the classic WrestleManias of the past? No, but it was also the biggest thing they had. They had nothing else.
Yeah.
They just didn't, for whatever reason, things didn't. There was nothing else that they really had. I mean, they had Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, which was fine, but it wasn't as big as the women's match.
I got a question. Do you think the lack of sex appeal is hurting the product? Because with the women, here's the thing. Okay, because the women are all kind of like, it's almost taboo to look at a woman like objectifying like a hot girl on the show. And it's like, even though you see the way
I think people look at that constantly, actually.
But you can't really say anything.
Right, exactly. Here's my point.
I think it's one of the reasons that Alexa Bliss gets so much TV time.
Yeah, but you can't really say anything. Like if you say, I remember
if we say too much, then we're going to be criticized. Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember one time your friend Vince Russo actually put, "I'd like to spank Alexa Bliss." Was that it?
No, it beat her with a kendo because she was hitting with a kendo stick. I like her to hit me with a kendo stick, and like the whole mob got on like, oh my god, that's for And I'm like, oh Jesus. But the thing
I'll tell you what, I remember this one. This one really was like, this is really weird. Remember when Jericho did his cruise, and he said that like there's 30% women or something
right.
of order have cabins or some number,
right.
And he goes, they're like women. 18 to 34, which means bikinis, and he just got people. You're saying there's going to be women in bikinis, and you're advertising that, and it's like, geez, he's advertising a freaking cruise.
Right.
Bro, guess who started that?
You know who that was? That was your boy Ryan Satin. That started that. So that was that whole thing, and Chris was squashing, cut the promo on him.
And then he was,
cut on Instagram.
He got banned from the cruise.
Here's the point I want to make. Did you say recently? Did you say this that you think the WWE doesn't need like hot girls that don't know how to work well? that they needed
Yeah, I think that you don't want. I mean, but no, I'm not saying as far as in the ring doing matches. Yes, as far as can you have them in other roles? There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But as far as do we want to see really bad wrestling matches at this point, I don't think that works anymore. No. I mean, if you put someone in just because they're a model and then you have them do a real bad match, I think it's a major turn-up because I haven't seen a match like that get any kind of crowd reaction in a long time.
I've said that too, but I'll disagree with most of the fans out there that still watch. I think a lot of the girls that people think are serviceable workers on the show lose their sex appeal when they work. A lot of these girls out there, they do, like I said, they do too much stuff to kind of like they come across as clumsy sometimes and stuff. To me, that loses sex appeal. I think it hurts them from a marketing standpoint. When they put girls out there, they make them wrestle so much. It's like, what happened to the valet? Why is the valet such a position on the show now that's not that is not respected? That is that I don't get that. Do you understand that?
That's Vince though. That's Vince. Vince got rid of seconds and managers. Not completely, but because they got Leo Rush in there now and stuff, and every now and then they'll bring guys in. But yeah, that whole era, it's just. Vince didn't believe in managers, and now with the women, I don't think he believes in women managers so much either. So he's presenting everybody as wrestlers.
That's weird. Some of the best characters. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, personally, I think that it's hurt things because Zelina Vega and Lana in particular, I think were far more effective as not wrestlers. Lana in particular I thought Lana was great in her role with Rusev, and the minute they made her a wrestler, she was just another woman on the show, right. Whereas as a manager, she was the only one who was different. And I think that she's not the star that she was, and it's because they tried to make her a wrestler. If they kept her and Rusev together with the old act, they'd both be way more over than they are.
Bro, how brutal was it when they made her lose her accent and she was showing up in matching jeans with Ziggler?
That whole thing.
Yeah.
Bro, I mean, the whole thing that goes on in that company right now is how old is Vince? What is he, 70?
Vince is 70. He's going to be 74 this summer. So he's 73.
You got a 74-year-old man from New York, from rich part of Stamford, Connecticut, up north, and he, for 50 years, he's seen what's happened over the course of time in wrestling. He had Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, all these larger-than-life guys, but now he sees like this new generation of wrestlers. They're smaller, they're more athletic and everything, and I just think Vince just kind of is refusing to give in to the way the trends have gone, and like he's still insistent that like, okay, hey, these big guys, I'm gonna push, and it's like
that's what made him money. That's what he knows.
Right, exactly. But I think
that's what he knows, and that's what he's going to think. And Triple H is a bigger than usual guy, so and a bodybuilder to boot. So they're going to favor that to a degree. I mean, they're more open-minded than they were 5 years ago because of I think a lot due to like Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and people like that, but. Yeah, when push comes to shove, I mean, there's definitely still people on top who look and just go, can this guy be a WrestleMania main event? And that word means, you've got the right look more than, the wrestling work. Again, because like a lot of the times we talk about like the big stars and a lot of it's the promos, but, Roman Reigns is an average promo and they went all the way with him because it's, and he is a good worker. But the reason that they chose him was because, he had good size, good athlete, and a good look. And they chose him, and the people know they chose him, which really hurt him a lot, for years.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Disco, the only thing that he doesn't like about the Observers, he feels sometimes instead of being a journalist, you throw in your, what is it, editorial privilege, Disco?
Yeah. No,
I'm always. That's
of course.
I'm going to comment on what I observed. That's like the whole nature of the beast.
Of course, I've said that repeatedly. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm saying that. That's
yes,
what
you have said it. There is something wrong with that. That's why I'm bringing it up.
No. Well, here's the thing. It's like when opinion on on subjective things like what wrestlers you think are good or what match you like, what promote, that's a subjective opinion. But like to sit there and say like you'll make the comment that the Japanese wrestling is the best wrestling on the planet right now, okay? And
I don't think I've ever said that. I do think New Japan's got real strong main events for the most part. Probably stronger than. I would say last year stronger than any other promotion. Things are catching up and changing. There's a lot of great matches in the UK right now, and on the U.S. scene too. So, but yeah, I think the highest quality matches, to me, my opinion, New Japan. But you look at most polls when it comes to people who watch everything all over the world. It's usually the Japanese matches that rank the highest. So it's not just my opinion. It's kind of a consensus.
Let me ask you a question too. How much time does it take you to watch everything? Like what do you watch, and how many hours you have to put in? And watching and then writing.
I spend all day writing, but I try to watch everything that people recommend, and I never catch up. I mean, especially now with like a lot of the UK stuff, people will send me like, links to stuff, and it's, 4 or 5 matches a day, and I go, okay, tonight I'm going to watch it, and then I run out of time and I don't, and then I get weeks behind. So it's nobody with a job can keep up with like all the good wrestling. It's impossible. I try, but do you try
to watch it? Do you consider yourself a critic or a fan? And when you watch a match, do you try to watch it do you catch yourself watching it as a critic or a fan?
I don't really put stigmas on. I watch it to see if it moves the audience and see if it's exciting.
Because
here's what I think.
Let me finish.
I don't think as a critic too much, but to a degree. I mean, there's a little bit to it if it looks really bad. But I think that's also as a fan. When I watch a match as a fan and it looks really bad, I don't like it. So it's. But Dave, I don't know that. That's a real hard. That's a real hard one to say. I mean,
here's something that you don't, because I always, I always used to tell Disco that I always used to look at your ratings. I didn't care. I don't rate matches myself like 3 stars, 4 stars. They're either good, very good, not that good. That's how I rate them.
That's the same. But it's still the same thing.
Yeah, right. But you use a star system. So I always
stars too.
I used to go to when I wanted to know if a match was good, I'd just go to the Observer, and if something was 3 3/4 stars or more, I'd usually watch it. Okay, and so but one of the things that me and him were talking about that I don't think you ever take into account, and you should, but maybe this isn't part of the parameters or whatever, is like. There are matches that, they're not that good, but the people are really, really into them, and you never kind of take that into account.
I always bring that up.
Do you?
I always will bring, if this match is really over, or this match is technically good, but the people aren't reacting, especially now. Yeah, I always write about that.
But will you give it a higher rating because the people are really into it, is what I'm saying? Or you'll just mention
it? It depends on the situation. I mean, generally speaking, yes. Sometimes maybe no, if it's one of those things where if 2 guys come to the ring and they're already over and there's nothing that they do in the match that gets them more over than their ring entrance, but their match gets good reaction, I don't necessarily think that proves that the match is good. It proves that they're over. If guys come out with a moderate reaction and end up at the end of their match, with the people going crazy, I'll always take that into account big time because that's the job they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I think, Dave, you would get a different perspective on professional wrestling if you took a period of time out, let's say 1 month, all right, and watched whatever you watch, like the stuff that you have to watch, okay, that when you're watching it, if it gets bad enough for you that you can't watch anymore, that you actually just don't watch the rest. Okay, because I think the thing is
but I can't do that, unfortunately.
Well, that's the thing. Here's the thing. I think this is where your perspective on wrestling.
I know, I'm not unlike the viewers, I'm not allowed to turn off Raw and I'm not allowed to turn off SmackDown. During the bad matches, I can't fast forward through them.
Well, that's how he makes his living. Because that's how he makes his living. He can't say I just saw half a match.
But let me ask you a question. Don't you think that if maybe if you said like, hey, this week what if you said I quit watching, it was so bad, and what do you think what the fans would say? I don't think it'd be a negative response. I honestly don't think.
I wouldn't do that, so I've never really thought about it. I mean, it's like I'm going to watch. I mean, that's my job. I mean, especially when it comes to WWE big shows, it's just like that's just the job I signed up for, and again, I'm entertained by a lot of it. I don't consider it like a horrible job, a horrible part of the job. But I mean. Would I like it better if these shows were 90 minutes? Hell yeah. And I think everyone would. But we're just in an environment with TV rights where it's just not going to happen. It's just it's one of those things. It's like what we said kind of from the very beginning, is we're in this situation where we are going to be whittling away viewers. Even if like creative got better, you gave people great matches and all that, we're still going to be whittling away viewers just because the average person doesn't have that amount of time to watch it, and they're going to get burned out. And by doing that, what you're doing is you're taking the short-term money while eroding your fan base at the same time. But this has always been a short-term thinking business. And, in the long run, we're gambling on the idea that this TV money is always going to be there no matter what. And we're always going to have this base audience because wrestling inherently can be really, really entertaining and fun. And that will be okay while we're making lots of money right now. So that's kind of the mentality. Somebody else might go, I'm in this for the long haul. I see this audience eroding. I'm going to, I'm going to cut my profits way, way back, knowing that I'm going to keep my fan base probably at a higher retention level, and it's better for me in the long run. But the stockholders, they're a public company, so they can't do that anyway. But yeah, there is that theory. I mean, I look at the numbers, and it's kind of like, that's like, what do you do? And it's like, because these declines, I mean, it's been a decline to a certain degree anyway, but the big declines did come when the show went to 3 hours, especially the declines during the show. That's a new phenomenon. And, when it was a 2-hour show, the last segment, almost every single week, the last segment was the highest.
I just thought of this as you were talking and having this conversation. You're talking about all the TV, how many hours of TV has been on in the last 20 years of professional wrestling between WWE, all the programming. And the creative is really bad these days. Do you think because the universe is basically an audience with, it's an arena with fans and a backstage, that literally maybe they've done everything you could possibly do creatively, and it's very difficult to think of anything else to do?
Oh, I think it's real difficult to think of anything new, but I think that, again, you can say that about the NBA and you can say that about the NFL, but the reality is that you get a hot team or a hot player or something like that, and things are fine. I mean, what's more boring than golf? But look what happened when Tiger Woods came back. There was a great story that everyone in the world wanted to see. Yeah. So it really is. It's all about personalities and story. It's just hard. It's got to be the right personality and the right story, and it's tough the way that they book, where everybody wins and everybody loses all the time, and there's no superheroes. It's hard to make a superhero.
That's hurt them a lot.
The thing with sports is the sports inherently, is gonna have a LeBron James, whereas with WWE, they haven't had a LeBron James since who? I mean, Cena really wasn't. I mean, probably since The Rock.
Let me ask you a question. What was the backstage? What was the deal with when they brought all those NXT guys up a month ago or so, whatever it was, and they brought them all up at one time, no vignette, no nothing, just threw them out there on the show. Was there a backstory why they did that, with Vince and Hunter or something?
Vince woke up one day and goes, "We need some new guys. Who's really good there?" I mean, he took guys that Hunter was doing a feud with, and brought them up as a tag team because he didn't care. So he brought who he thought, or who was told were the top 4 guys there, and he brought them up right away because that week we need new faces, and we need to have these new faces win every time. So he spent and what ends up happening is you get it was Gargano, Ciampa, Black, and Ricochet. So Ciampa gets hurt right away because he's already injured, and it was in hindsight a terrible move to bring him up when his neck was so messed up. Then they decide without Ciampa, we don't want Gargano. So Gargano's now off TV after a bunch of wins. So you're left with Black and Ricochet, who they kept winning. They kept having them win constantly. And then they split up them, and now I don't know what's going to happen with them as a single. I mean, Ricochet lost to Bobby Roode. That tells me that they were Vince's shiny new toys, and now he's looking for new toys. And
after a month.
Well, not just that. He did absolutely nothing to get him over. First of all, he introduced him like a bunch of just anybody out of, I know it was a last-minute decision, but the way they were introduced was so bland and so, uninspiring.
It's like they're introduced like a football team coming out. Like, here's the quarter. You're announcing the guy.
Well,
he's running through the bed. Just ran out of the show.
Here's the other part, Dave. If you were like a fan that hadn't watched WWE in a while and you didn't know what the fuck NXT was, and you were watching Ricochet for the first time, you'd have no idea this is like the most gifted wrestler, high flyer since Rey Mysterio. He's not really doing anything. And I like Aleister Black, but even when they were giving the hot tag, they were giving it to Black, not to Ricochet. And this happened like 3 times, not once. Yeah. It's like everything was so, done wrong from the very beginning, and then they lose confidence, and then when these guys aren't getting over immediately, well, yeah, you didn't put them in a position to get over either.
Yep. And then they don't, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the thing is that if you're put in there with middle guys, the people think you're a middle guy. If you're put in there with, now the thing they're doing with Lacey Evans, they're trying a different approach, because with her, they're putting her in there with the top girl right away.
Yeah, right. That never works either. That never works. That always I'll predict. I'll throw a prediction out. 6 weeks from now, she'll just be in the middle of the card wrestling with some Ruby Riott stuff. That's because the way they book. They don't. Here's what they do, and like me and Konnan have talked about this. Repeat all the time in the show. They have a very clever way of burying people. They start getting you over a little bit, and then you literally hit the glass ceiling, but the glass ceiling is way lower than where you think it should be, and they literally just bury people, and like they never let.
Yeah, whatever happened to Dolph Ziggler? Whatever happened to him?
He's on a vacation.
Okay, what does that
stand up? They wanted him to be an agent, and he didn't really want to be an agent. So
why would he be an agent? The guy's super over.
Yeah.
Well,
why?
It's like that's crazy, right?
Vince never saw anything in him, and
then why do you keep signing him for millions of dollars or whatever? You know what I'm saying?
I don't want him going anywhere else,
bro.
He's how that goes.
No, I don't got to.
Think about this. This is the thing. And I think this has to do with the fact that they don't cut anybody anymore unless it's for disciplinary reasons, is because if they cut somebody, I mean, they did let Ty Dillinger go, but it's a guy who I think that in their minds wasn't going to do anything. Mm-hmm. So I think that their mentality is like, well, just example, Cody, okay? They didn't do anything with Cody. Cody left. Cody became a big star. I don't think they want that, because then it looks like you had this guy and he was in the second match, and now he's running around all over the world and he's a big deal. And it's like, what does that say? I don't think they want that second guessing and go like Luke Harper, all of a sudden go somewhere else and
they're going to have to let.
I don't think they want that people going, hey, you had this guy for 7 years, did nothing with him. What is it? How can you be this creative genius that everyone says you are?
Get ready for that to happen, because they have so much talent that they're not going to be able to keep happy, and they're going to start leaving.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You see guys wanting to leave. Give notice every week. It seems like.
Right.
Hey, let me ask you a question. What do you know about the AEW structure? Okay, so they're going on TNT. Did they announce they're going on TNT, or is that still just was that an announcement?
They haven't signed that contract yet, unless it's been signed in the last 2 days, and I doubt it has.
Okay. But, here's my question. When you go to like the wrestlers that go to the show, who's the finish guy? Like, who's the one booking the show right now? Who's in charge of who's calling the shots?
I'll find out when they do the show in Vegas. But I think my guess is it's a collaborative effort with the Young Bucks, Kenny, Omega, and Cody. But we'll find out who's going to end up being the alpha in that group, or who's going to have the most say-so, or if it's going to be other. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's Tony Khan. I mean, in the reality of it is, because Tony Khan is the guy paying the checks, and Tony Khan's going to have a lot of input because he's a real. He's written a lot of stuff. So I mean, at the end of the day, who's going to, as far as the details and everything like that? I mean, it's going to be all those guys, and how it all shakes out, I don't know yet.
Well, here's the thing: is like, do they have those guys, right? And is everybody kind of on the same page, like creatively, or does everybody kind of still have their own ideas and stuff? Or
I don't talk to anyone there about creative.
Right.
Maybe when it gets going, I will, but I haven't at all.
Here's what's going to be hard, Dave.
Let me tell you, because Konnan knows this too, and this is things that sometimes you have major creative differences, right? So when we were booking, when it was me, Vince, Dutch, and Jeff at TNA, right? And this was a major creative difference. Jeff insisted that we had to explain why the camera was in the back, okay? And this was always just even with Dutch didn't really like me, Vincent did. It's Jeff, the camera's just there. This is going to inhibit. Obviously, it's very inhibitive to the type of backstage stuff you can shoot, because you always have to explain the camera's there. But I just wonder if they're the guys that together, like the Bucks and all those guys, if they have any major creative differences like that, or they all kind of just see,
I don't know, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's Tony Khan.
Right.
I mean, he's going to be the one. He's Jeff. He's the owner.
Right.
And How much he's going to do, I mean, he's got other jobs, obviously. He's running a soccer team, and he's got his other businesses. So I don't know how much, but he loves wrestling. He loves to talk wrestling. He loves to think wrestling. So he's going to have more input than people think.
Yeah, he's a sharp guy. I talked to him before, a sharp guy. And I just think that since they're all friends anyways, it's almost like a whole bunch of your friends are going to be booking this together. So they're already friends. It ain't like you're hiring people from outside and they have their agendas. And of course, there will be creative differences.
I think there's going to be, I think that everyone, if they have an idea, is going to kind of get a chance. I mean, and again, long term, there's always going to be disagreements. If things go smooth, because they did that one show, the Labor Day show, that was a big success, and I never heard of any problems with anything as far as like what they were going to do and everything like that, because everything was roses, right? When you're running a weekly television show, when you're getting ratings and things like that, there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be analysis, whether it's from Tony Khan or every one of those guys, and that's when you're going to. Inherently, there's going to be some things, but
there'll be more stress. What I think is hard, Dave, is for them, because I've tried this before and it's very hard. It's for them to be wrestling on a show they're actually agenting and giving out, finishes and stuff like that.
Well, you know this better than anyone because you're one of the few people in the world who has done, every part of that creative and wrestling process in multiple companies all over North America, and the other part is that while those are all smart guys, and they'll be the first to tell you, they are all inexperienced in this. This is the first time they've done it, and you would know. I mean, when you were younger and you were first involved in creative, you may have been really, really creative, but there's also things when you look back and go, man, I didn't get this, or I didn't get this, or I wish I didn't do this, and they're going to look back, in 15 years and say the same thing because it is new for them.
Right.
I got a question. Did you watch? You probably watched the Viceland docs. Did you see the Brody doc?
Saw the Brody doc, yeah.
Okay, I got a question. Somebody was telling me this because they were telling me this yesterday. I was going to just ask you because you knew we were having you on. Was there with Tony Atlas's version of the story? Somebody told me that Manny Fernandez was calling bullshit on that. Do you know anything about that?
No, but Manny Fernandez wasn't even there then.
Right.
I mean, Tony Atlas. The version of the story. See, I've seen so much of the Tony Atlas stuff, but I mean, the Tony Atlas story that he told on the High Spots Brody doc was very, very similar, if not exact, to the story that he told people 20 or 30. Now it's 30 years ago. 30 years ago. So he's been pretty consistent. In time, things happen, and stories are going to change minorly. That's just the nature of reality, especially when you get old. But I think the gist of the story is pretty much the same. There might be some memories, and then people will jump on those. And it's like, it is 30 years ago. I don't remember things from 30 years ago perfect. I thought, I was remembering some scene in my life from what was it, 1994. And I remembered this song because I heard the song on the radio and goes, oh, this is like the scene this is like what I was doing when I heard this song, okay? It was in the car like 2 weeks ago. And so I just kind of assumed, oh, yeah, this song, I remember what I was doing then. And then for whatever reason, I looked up the song, and the song came out in 95. So it's like, wow, my memory was a little bit off. And that shit happens.
Let me see if you get the same feeling I did when I was watching that. And they were just telling the story of Abdul the Butcher versus Bruiser Brody, the wild man from the Sudan versus this, and they're showing the clips, they're showing the footage, and they're talking about like how the people, were scared of those two, like for a shoot. You're right, exactly. Bro, does it kind of?
I've been in buildings with Brody and Abdul the Butcher, and I was scared too.
Here's the thing. Do you think kind of like wrestling fans today, kind of like the way they act, like they never grew up in that era? So it's kind of like, we went, there was always, even the people that knew it was a shoot, the suspension of disbelief was always kind of in the right place back then because you had monsters and animals and guys that were crazy that you were scared of. Is it kind of disappointing that we don't really see that anymore today?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, things, but things always change. But yeah, it's like if you're a big heel and you get in somebody's face at ringside, they know that they can laugh at you because they could sue you and you're not going to really hit them. When it was Bruiser Brody, even though that was the same thing, I don't think they knew as much. It was Abdul the Butcher.
Yeah.
I don't think it even occurred to them that Abdul the Butcher would care about these.
Everybody scattered.
Didn't do it.
Everybody ran out of the way. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you didn't do that. I mean, you didn't see.
Bro, let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, Dave. I never tell you this story. So I went once in Miami to see a wrestling match, right? And Dick Murdoch was there. And I went and I asked him for an autograph. I was probably 8 years old, and he told me no. And, I left pissed. So that was a heel. Today they're trying to sell T-shirts and they're taking pictures, and nobody wants to suspend that aura. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. It's a different business.
Yeah.
There are good things that have been lost in changes in the business,
Yes.
and there's things that are better in changes in the business. I mean, in a sense, it's probably real good that you're a heel and you don't have to worry about anyone shooting you or stabbing you, because guys really did get shot at, very rarely, but it happened. Guys got stabbed a little bit more, but it was rare, but it absolutely, Roddy Piper got stabbed, Ole Anderson got stabbed, Mulligan got stabbed.
I had a gun taken out on me.
I got spit on at the Omni in Atlanta as a fan for standing and applauding the Four Horsemen. I mean, like, bro,
this is the best part of the show, Dave, where Disco freezes up. Did Dave also freeze up?
No, I'm here.
Okay. So, Dave, go ahead. What are you going to say, Joe?
No, I was just going to say, he'll probably be right back.
Dave. Hello,
Yes.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. I got one last question here. What's a promotion that, people have sent you, or maybe that you saw in WrestleMania that's really different that people should check out?
You mean I mean, I think that as far as I think All Japan is really good right now.
Really?
I think some of the UK groups, a lot of the Americans don't know. I think
like which ones?
I think TNA's or Impact. Impact's much better now that no one's seeing them, unfortunately. I mean, because whenever I watch the show on Friday night, I really like the show.
Yeah, the show is very.
They're a lot better. Your stuff in AAA is a lot better than it was 2 years ago. My God, But yeah, I mean, there's really a lot of stuff out there. I mean, most stuff. What's funny is most stuff is pretty good right now, because like the wrestlers are more. I think the wrestlers are hungry isn't the word, but you're able to learn from more things because so much is available.
Right, there's more learning tools.
There's a different kind, and you know this better than anyone. I mean, as far as, because you're the one who finds these guys that are, super creative, but they're not necessarily great wrestlers. But the thing is that if you get them young and then you teach them, they can be great wrestlers. Because like the one was with the Private Party, which was the tag team that AEW just signed. Okay,
right.
I watched some clips of them, and it's like they do unbelievable things in the ring, like those opening match guys that from Tijuana, type of stuff. It's just unbelievable. But they're not great wrestlers. But like people are going like, oh, they signed these green guys, and it's like I would sign them too, because if they're around really good wrestlers with their athletic ability and creativity,
in 3 years they're going to be incredible.
Yeah, because that's what Ray was. I mean, that's
right.
It's like I think people don't understand like what Ray and Psychosis and these guys, when they first started and where they, I mean,
right.
It's like
they were
they
were like 17 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
But if you've got that, and then you learn to be polished, you become, you can become an all-time great.
Well, you can put a high spot on Twitter these days, and get work, because people think you're like serious. It's like Twitter.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right. I know what you're going to say, but
gimmick, or a weird gimmick. Like,
well, the thing too is like the Twitter. Like Twitter, I don't know if it's good for the business or not. Okay, it's good for promoting the business, but like we're constantly putting crazy stuff up on Twitter, and it's like backyard people are doing stuff in their backyard, or like the up and coming wrestlers are seeing like this is the way you get famous. And I think that we could do a whole podcast on that. But I think it's a dangerous path.
Well, idiots clout chasing or trying to get likes and views, that's gonna happen forever. You know what I'm saying? Now they just have a platform on which to do it on, and maybe even monetize it. Dave, what do you got going on coming up? StarCast, any one-man shows, or what is it that you got going on?
I'm doing a show at StarCast, Brian and I are doing one show, but I think the tickets are all gone. But we're doing the show with Conrad, where I'm sure that there's going to be tickets available and everything like that. So that'll be in Vegas.
I may make an unannounced run-in with Disco.
But that's really the only thing. I don't have anything else as far as going on the road and doing stuff. I'm going to PWG in the next show, which I don't even know who's on the card because it's Mystery Vortex.
Oh, it's that Ultra Vortex thing?
Yeah, where you don't even know who's going to be there. And, so but I go there to hang out with my friends and watch, like, really great wrestling because PWG is just, you've been there. It's just, like, fun from start to finish.
Yeah.
Dave, weren't you
plus
announced?
You're super over there. Go ahead.
Dave, weren't you announced for the next Jericho cruise as well?
Yeah, I am going to the Jericho cruise. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be tough because I'm going to be coming back. I'm planning on going to Japan with my son for New Year's, and then coming right back and going on the cruise. But yeah, very much so. And I hear that his tickets are going real well. I'm really looking forward to the Jericho cruise, though.
Bro, let me tell you.
Jericho cruise?
I don't know yet, but I will tell you this, which will be very frustrating for you. You're gonna love the cruise, okay? But the internet on there is absolutely terrible. Be ready to be 3 to 4 days incommunicado.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
That's tough. That's tough for me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure
it was very tough.
You
for
went
me
on last year, and that had to kill you because you were working for all these. You have to be in communication with people.
Yeah, it killed me, bro. It was brutal.
I think it would be funny if you'd actually talked him out of going on the cruise. That'd be funny. Just tell them you don't have your passport.
That's what happened with Disco.
Passport. Yeah.
That's what happened with Disco, and Jericho ended up walking up because it was like around Halloween. It was like in October. He ended up doing a set dressed up as a Disco Inferno with a tremendously big Toucan Sam nose, which was tremendous.
Tremendously disrespectful is what it was.
Do you want to plug your podcast, The Observer, Dave?
Yeah. So Brian Alvarez and I, and also Garrett Gonzalez and I do shows multiple times a week.
Who's the third guy?
Garrett Gonzalez.
Who's that?
We haven't done a show together yet.
Who?
Oh, he's like one of my best friends.
Who? Garrett Gonzalez.
Garrett Gonzalez, yeah.
Where's he from?
He's from San Jose. I've known him for years.
Does he? Does he have a podcast of his? Does he have a podcast of his own?
No.
Oh, hook him up with Joe. He'll give a podcast on the Credit Control Network.
Yeah, absolutely.
He actually does a fight game blog on his own, which is like a boxing and pro wrestling, an MMA thing. And so when I do the show with Brian, it's like mostly pro wrestling and MMA. When I do it with Garrett, we'll talk NBA and we'll talk because he's a super big basketball fan. And we'll talk boxing and baseball a little bit, not that much, but a little bit. So it's more the stuff with Brian and I is more like heavy wrestling, and the stuff with Garrett and I is like people describe it as like two friends just at 10:00 at night talking about the news of the day and anything else that pops up that may not be news. So it's different. It's a completely different vibe.
When you and Brian do Raw reviews, do you have more downloads when the show is terrible or when it's great?
I have no idea. I think when it's great though. I think when it's terrible, people don't want to hear about how terrible it is for a long period of time.
Before we go, can we talk about the Bray Wyatt character? That news they did.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. It's week one, so I thought Bray Wyatt himself was great in the segment, but it's like every WWE character. It's like you kind of don't know where it's going to go. So it's like. I mean, it's new and it's different and it's a
super risky.
thing.
It's super risky. Given the political climate today and the way the trolls are on the internet, that they're gonna if anybody starts getting some like traction where they starts saying, "Oh, this guy's just a pervert. What are you trying to do for you?" You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's a very difficult character to do in this day and age. 20 years ago, no problem. But I think there's too many people that are just willing to complain about, with fake outrage and stuff that are going to be offended by a character like this. That's my opinion.
It depends on what he does, but it was interesting to me because it was different. I always like different, but I don't know. I don't like, again, it was when it was over, it's like, is this going to make it? And it's like, man, I need to see this for about another month before I can figure out if it's going to make it because I really didn't have a clue when it was over. There was a part of me that goes, are they, like kids aren't going to like it. But then again, this is not a kid's audience. Will adults like this, kind of.
What do you
like
mean it's
dark
not a
kid
kids
show.
audience? I think it is. Isn't WWE a kids audience kind
They
of?
try to be, but they don't appeal to kids. That's the problem. If they appeal to kids,
No, it's unbelievable. Yeah, they write a show for
That's
kids.
tremendous. Even kids are like,
Yeah,
"Fuck this shit."
they write a show for kids that's supposed to be for an 18 to 34-year-old male audience. It's like, and what you see is like utter just confusion every week by
Right.
people like us. They're going like, what are they doing? That's what you get.
I will say this. Okay, when they drew the most kids was when they said that they weren't writing for kids, and that taught me that kids don't want to be written to. They want. They will react to something really good and charismatic that's not written for them. I mean, like, because there was never more kids watching than when The Rock and Stone Cold were, on top. And Stone Cold,
Because kids like to see cool shit.
they were both doing, risque stuff.
Yeah, and you go to shows and 8-year-old kids are in the audience flicking people off.
Not only that, I think kids love
They love that, and then it becomes one of those things. So then it becomes one of those things where they go like, "Oh, you got all these kids, so you got to tone it down." But then the kids don't want to go anymore because it's just like normal stuff. I mean, I think
perfect example.
Get off on that stuff. Yeah,
Joey Ryan says the biggest fans of his gimmick are the
parents
little
don't want you
kids.
to go. You sneak in your bedroom and you watch it on TV because your parents don't want you to. Because don't you watch that stuff? Now parents they don't go watch it, but why would I want to watch that?
Right, like Joey Ryan said, the biggest fans of his gimmick are the little kids. It's like that's the deal.
I would bet that's the case.
Yeah,
I would bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, not only that, Dave, as a little kid, you always want to see what the teenagers and adults are watching. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so you've got the Observer Show with your boy Garrett Gonzalez and Brian Alvarez, and what else do you do?
And I just write all day and watch wrestling.
Okay, don't you have a show with Lance Storm?
No, Brian does. Brian works with Lance Storm.
Okay, and let me tell you.
I should do a show with Lance Storm. We've been wanting to do a show, an episode together for years. We just have never made time to do it. Someday we will.
Yeah. And so let me tell you, my favorite part is when you get surly on Twitter, especially on Good Friday. You were very surly, and I really doubly enjoyed that you took a religious day and just shot on everybody. So I just wanted to say one more time, I am a big fan of surly Dave Gin and Juicing and Molly Meltzer. And Dave, I want to thank you once again for being on, keeping it 100. Boom.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
All right, peace.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Peace.
Di, you got time for
Yeah, I'll do climb real quick.